this is the CodeHS materials list, which I've got up here. And you are going to need an Arduino with a USB cable. Now, the USB cable is a USB-A to USB-B cable, kind you typically use for hooking up printers. If you're buying some third-party devices like I've got here, well, they use micro USB on one end, which is helpful. Now, external battery connectors. Let me go ahead and stop the share real quick. I can kind of show you what we're talking about. Here, I've got a 9-volt battery with just a barrel plug. This will plug into the Arduino, and I'm going to cover some, so you'll see like typically a barrel plug right here. Most of the Arduino compatibles have those. So if you want to run your stuff outside of having it wired to the computer, in other words, you want to demo it for somebody else or you want to see it live, you can actually work it that way. Okay, and let's go back real quick. Breadboards. Definitely you'll need to do a lesson about breadboards, but breadboards are easy way of actually wiring something up. They're pre-wired, so all you do is take what's called hookup wires, plug them into the holes, and then you can go directly from the pins on the Arduino into the breadboard, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So your wires are all over. It gives you a needed connection. Alligator clip jumper wires, very useful for connecting other things. If you're using some other devices that are still programmable through the Arduino interface, like a microbit or even something like a Circuit Playground Express from Adafruit, you're going to definitely need the Alligator clip ones. Now, Alligator clip to male jumper wires. That's where if you're connecting something with the clips to there, typically I use a lot of those for like when I'm actually using my multimeter, I want to check something, verify it. They work from there. And again, usually how many. LEDs, again, they're very cheap. And I'll show you some websites as to where to get some of this stuff. Don't buy the big expensive ones just for these, because you know they're gonna get lost, they're gonna get dropped. Buy inexpensive ones. And something you have to be aware of LEDs, they have what's called a forward voltage. You need to make sure that they will work with the power supply, and it will help you determine the resistor strength you'll need. Resistors, there's a few of them you'll want to buy. 220 ohm, 10 kilo ohm, those are the typical ones. But again, if you look at the projects, most of the projects tell you how many to do it. And a lot of it is to limit the amount of current flowing so you don't destroy the device. Male to male wires, you're gonna need a lot of these. They have little pins on both ends, so you can plug them into the breadboard and plug them into the pins on the actual Arduino. With these, definitely colors are helpful. If you're using regular wire, what's called hookup wire, please make sure it's what's called single-stranded. It's got a single piece of copper in it. Multi-stranded wire doesn't plug into breadboards very easily or into the pin headers. So single-stranded wire if you're going to do it yourself. And you'll need a wire strippers if you're making your own. I do both, but it's a lot easier to buy some of the pre-built stuff, and it's really cheap off Amazon or even some of the other vendors. Tentiometers, a little device that has a knob. As you turn the knob, the resistance changes. Again, very cheap component, easy to get. Micro servo motors. These are little servos. Tell you what, I'm going to get this way. I'm going to keep that up and just show you what I've got. So this is a micro servo. It's a little motor, and it will swing 180 degrees. A lot of these things are used for remote control devices, remote control cars, airplanes, and things like that. And I'll show you. This is the potentiometer. Little knob on top. You turn it. Buttons. You're going to need buttons. They're very cheap. I've got a whole drawer up there, but they're just these little buttons like there, and they're just on-off kind of items. Ultrasonic rangefinder, that's this thing. It looks like a set of eyes. It sends out an ultrasonic signal, and then the other one receives it back. Photoresistors. Let's see. Motor resistors, also known as light detectors. As light hits it, the resistance increases. So goes from there. Temperature sensor. And a lot of these are temperature and humidity, so you can check from that point. DC hobby motors. I've got them in a box. Motors, you have to be a little careful of. They tend to draw a lot of current. So typically when you're dealing with DC motors, and sometimes even with some of the bigger servo motors, you're going to need what you're going to need is a motor driver or motor controller. Typically, it's a board that looks like this. You can hook up multiple motors. It has its own power supply. So what it does, it takes the signal from the Arduino and then pulls the amount of power from its own power supply so it can run it at full current. 16 by 2 LCD screen. Again, it gives you the price there. You can get them. They're making these now where you don't need to wire in as many. They've got some that are called I2C LCD screens where you don't have to hook up these 7 or 8 wires for it. You can just hook up 3 or 4. They are pre-wired. They are a good way of getting information back from your project. If you need some kind of numeric value, you can easily print them out. Specifically, if your project is going to be not connected to the computer. So now let me show you a few sites you can do. There's a lot of kits out there. One of my favorite sites is actually Adafruit. So if you go to adafruit.com and go under products, they have Arduino. And they've got kits, boards, devices that you can actually do.
Chip, could you share share your screen so we can see that site?
Oh, it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to redo the share again. Give me a second.
No problem. This is all really good information. And some people were asking about supply chain issues. I know we were talking about that before we started. So if you have any input on that as well, that would be helpful.
Okay, so this is Adafruit. Adafruit, again, probably our school system. It's one of our vendors. It's where I order most of my stuff. They do have their own version of an Arduino called a Metro board. I like this because it uses the micro USB instead of a USB-B cable. So I've got a ton of micro USB cables, so it's a lot easier, but it still is programmable exactly the same way. Even though it doesn't say Arduino on it, this is an Arduino. Now, again, they have all these items that you can do. This is that battery connector. Here's what are called shields. You can do these boards that plug in, and you can plug in the board. So if you need an LCD and you don't want to do all the wiring, this is a shield you can just plug right on top. The motor controllers, again, you can use those, wire up lots of different types of motors. You can play sound. This is the typical cable you're going to need for a US Arduino. Again, GPS, all these things. Now, the nice thing with this website is they tell you if it's in stock or not. For most of the Arduino stuff, the basic stuff, it is there. And they offer kits also, so you can actually look for educational kits. One of the things I do like about this is they have their own site to learn more. So if I type in Arduino up here in their learn, let's see, Arduino compatible. So they've got a bunch of little things. You can see kits, what you can buy, different projects you can work on, how things actually work. So a great site. Another great site is SparkFun. SparkFun, similar to Adafruit, I've used them for a vendor in the past. I don't use them as much because, again, my kind of go-to is there. But if I just type in Arduino, or actually, I think they have another product menu. Yeah, Arduino right there. And they've got kits you can buy, inventor's kit, the robot kit. They sell their own compatible, which is called a Breadboard. So it's just like the Arduino. It's kind of like the Adafruit version. It uses a micro USB, but it's an Arduino for all intents and purposes. So you can buy the Arduino and the kits together and purchase them that way. Another place for project exploration is Make Scene. Magazine is where a lot of makers go. And again, they've got concepts and stuff. So you can easily come here, books and kits. They do sell stuff through it, but it tends to be much higher cost. So I'd be a little wary of buying stuff on Magazine, but if you want to look at research projects, it's a great place to go.
Chip, if you could show your organization that you were showing us earlier, and how you use that with the students in the classroom, I think that is really important because, you know, it does add up and you don't want to have these, all these materials going to waste.
I buy these boxes from Home Depot, little storage boxes. And inside, I can't tilt it, but I mean, I've got breadboard in one spot, the Arduino in one spot, a bunch of wires, sensors, all broken out. This is the teacher box. Typically, I'll have a sheet taped onto the top here. That's the inventory sheet that explains exactly what's in here. But I mean, I've got like 10 yellow LEDs, 10 green ones, 10 red ones. I've got a bunch of different resistors. We do RGB LEDs. Again, these are the little buttons. They're tiny little things. I've got like about 10 of them, and then some other sensors I just drop in here. But again, with these, it's a good way of keeping everything separate. I number each kit. Students are assigned a specific number. Weekly, they'll do an inventory. They'll turn the inventory to me. And then during my planning, I may grab one or two and just do a quick inventory check to make sure everything is there.